he opened up a random page, and the first page he opened, he put his finger down, and that's the bridge of it.
Get the fuck out of here, dude.
But they have one lyric that pisses me off. It's so stupid.
Here it is, and I don't know where it came from, but it's here now.
Right? Sometimes you're just a conduit, letting it come through. Hey, folks. Today we're diving into the songwriting process, from lyric writing to melody choices and more. So stay tuned to hear what these awesome musicians I sat down with, Brendan Healey and Olivia Weiss, so they had to say about their style of lyric writing, production choices, and tips on how to beat writer's block so you can keep that creative process flowing. Oh, also, Olivia mentioned how to not write terrible lyrics, which was pretty hilarious. So let's get into it. And that's cool to hear about your friend that's really prolific with the writing, does a lot of writing all the time. Yeah, and I find there's cool things you can do to challenge yourself, like January, if you've heard of that, or Beattober, certain things where it's you write a new original piece of music every day in October, or you write a new original piece of music every day in January.
Yeah.
And doing things like that kind of push you to be more that guy.
Keenan does that. He has been writing anime intros and I mean he writes all this different type of stuff, and I'm like,
talented.
What? Yeah. I'm like, dude, and I'm the that comments. I'm like, hey, make sure insert Paranoia song name is finished.
Get to work.
I'm like, and he's like, no, I promise it's done.
Oh, it's coming. I'm so sorry.
And it is done. But I just, he's and he's also a really good person, which is crazy, really because cool usually people that are that smart and talented are either super weird or not cool. They think they're better than everybody else, and he doesn't think that at all. He's awesome. Yeah. And he composes and produces too. You watch that guy do program drums, and it's he's Bleh. I'm like, what?
He gets it.
How do you do that? And I'm like, I thought that's not my forte really. My forte is hooks. You want a good hook, I'll write you a good hook over anything. You want good lyrics, I'll write you good lyrics over anything. Yep. None of my lyrics are that's fucking stupid. You know what I mean? I always think of that. I love Bring Me the Horizon, but they have one lyric that pisses me off. It's so stupid. Do you know what I'm gonna say?
Yes.
It's true friends stab you in the front. I hate that lyric. That song is so good, and that lyric is so fucking stupid.
Elaborate.
Sometimes lyrics can
It's just dumb. He's like, true friends stab you in the front. It's so dumb. I think it's stupid.
What do you think he means by that?
I think he means that if somebody's really your friend, if they're gonna hurt you, they're gonna do it right to your face. They're not gonna stab you in the back. They're not gonna talk about you behind your back. They're not gonna, betray you in that way where you have no idea. They're gonna be like, yo, I don't want to be your friend, I don't like you, or whatever. They're gonna say it to your face. You know what I mean? And I get what he's trying to say. I just think that lyric is so dumb, and I'm like, if I ever write a lyric like that, somebody tell me. Which I love.
Somebody stab me in the front.
I love Bring Me the Horizon.
Excuse me 1 second, I'm just gonna hit the bathroom real quick.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, do it up. But that's one of your least favorite lyrics. What's one of your favorite lyrics, if you can think of a few?
Brent.
Hey, headphones.
My favorite lyric. I already know. I have a whole list of lyrics actually that I love. I write them down when I hear them. But my favorite ever is when everything feels like a movie, you bleed just to know you're alive, from Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. That's my favorite song ever written. I've loved that song since I first heard it.
I was like, what is that? I know that.
I think that song is perfect. I think that when people do covers of it and they change the melody, I'm like, don't touch that song.
Don't touch the melody.
Don't touch that song, because you know how that song was written? Well, this is what I've heard. I don't know. I mean, I could get totally just roasted by somebody that sees this, but apparently he was he had a family. The lead singer, I don't know his name, but he had a family, and he didn't have any money and couldn't support his family. Was that your wallet that you just threw across the room?
It was getting in the way of your story.
Oh, okay.
He had a family.
He had a family. And he didn't have any money, and he was sitting on his front porch, and he was writing that song, and his wife came out and was like, that's it. That's our ticket out of here. And he put it out, and that's one of the biggest songs ever. I mean, of the 21st century, really. Even though it came out in 98 or something. But I think that song is perfect. I think there's literally nothing I would change about it to make it better. I think his voice is perfect. I think the lyrics are perfect. I think the mandolin is awesome. I love that song.
Would you be willing to grace us with some of your paranoia lyrics? Some lines you like that you've been kind of digging through?
Yeah, I have them. If I can remember my own lyrics.
Grab the phone.
Right?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Sneak peek, folks.
I have to write them down because I don't remember them. What am I supposed to read the whole song or just like a line?
No, a few lines that you like that you could like elaborate on.
So the funny thing about this song actually is it's the first song I wrote for this band, but it's not about me. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. It's about a friend of mine and the original guitar player. And he was with this girl that was like so toxic. Like she was so bad for him and she was just so nasty. And we all were telling him, we're like, dude, like get away from this person. This person is awful. Like you need to break up with her. Like, and he just could not see it. And finally one day, and I can't remember what it was, but something happened that he was like it was like the veil was lifted and he could just see everything of what she was. And he was like, I want to break up. Like we're done. And he broke up with her. And I was like, fucking finally. So a harridan is an evil woman, basically. It's like a synonym for like, they put it with like vixen and like.
Almost like heretic.
Yeah, basically. And like. Oh god. So like the chorus, I'll just read the chorus. It's, how could I not hear their screams behind your veil and hang me till you find what you came for? You're the downfall of my youth, the passion covering the truth. How could I not feel what you'd broken? Which is pretty self-explanatory for the most part.
That's badass.
And I used to write poetry in high school and like do these fucking stupid competitions. And I won, just saying. I just want to put that out there. No, I mean, like, it's just stupid because, like, when you write poetry in high school, it's like it all fucking sucks. But, I mean, a lot of these lyrics are, like, kind of... I take a lot, which is kind of funny, but I take a lot of religious terminology and form it into something that really has nothing to do with religion.
Oh, interesting.
And kind of captures what is happening in my life, like, or in somebody else's life. I'm writing something about somebody else. Like a bridge in one of my songs is nail me down, cross your heart, adorn me with a woven crown, cheat your game, your guilt of agency will be the one to blame. So, like, that's talking about, you know, like Jesus wore the woven crown. He wore like the crown of thorns and nail me down onto the cross and cross your heart, which people think cross your heart is this, but cross your heart is this. That song is about this. It's called Lilith, which is a really mean title because Lilith is the devil's wife, and yeah, this song is really mean, but the person who it's about, they'll never know it's about them. That's how I think that I have a couple diss songs about me that you know are about me. It's really obvious that they're about me, and they're really mean. But I think that when you write a song about somebody else, you have to be careful.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's cool to have the symbology of like within the spiritual realm, because a lot of lyricists will go around like the heart to make things like that sound like a love song but aren't quite a love song.
Yeah,
but it's cool that you're kind of like weaving around like kind of spiritual symbols.
Yeah, and I really didn't mean to. It's I grew up in the church, and my mom is like she is very, very religious. My mom was raised Baptist and is now Protestant, and I was just raised in the church, so I mean that terminology is kind of just unconsciously in my head, and I myself am religious. I wouldn't say as much as my mom. My mom is like a stick falls on her head that looks like a cross, and she hangs it up in the house, which makes my mom sound crazy. She's not. You've met her. She's not insane. She's just cool. Like very devout, and but like. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of accidental, but I also think a lot of religious terminology is kind of cool. I think the whole like a woven crown of thorns is like a really interesting image when you think about it, and you think about like that Jesus was a real person that was murdered, and they put this crown of thorns on his head, and they hung him on a cross, which is like really crazy because you could never imagine them doing that to somebody today.
The most brutal way to die.
Absolutely.
Crucifixion. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's so.
They hang you out there until you die.
Yeah, but there's something so fascinating about human nature in that way.
I think one of the first times I heard a lyric like that kind of hit was probably the bridge of Chop Suey.
Yeah.
Really?
Where it kind of goes into just,
Yeah.
Father, into your hands I condemn my spirit, the ripping drums.
Yeah. They're a cool band. All that Middle Eastern influence is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you know something really weird about that lyric right there?
You know what's weird about that? I have to go to the bathroom.
Yay!
You want to hear something really weird about that lyric?
Yeah.
So, Rick Rubin was the producer of that, right?
Yeah, System of a Down, Chop Suey.
Down,
Yeah.
Chop Suey. Rick Rubin was the producer. So, actually, this was a video that I was watching on Rick Rubin talking about this. And for the bridge of Chop Suey, I forget what the singer's name. I think it's Sergey something, right?
Sergey.
And he actually didn't have any lyrics for that. And Rick Rubin said, go pick up a book. He opened up a random page, and the first page he opened, he put his finger down, and that's the bridge of it.
Get the fuck out of
That's
here,
the bridge
dude.
of it. Man. That's the bridge of Chop Suey. And what's so cool about that is that became like a prominent part in the song. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That bridge was like a part that everyone really remembered. And dude, I love that kind of shit. I really do. Like, I love that, like, spontaneous, because I don't, in a way, I do think it's spontaneous, but I also think it's, like, meant to be, where it's like in that moment he picked up a book, went to it's like fate, right? He like went to a page, put his finger
Universal
down,
line for that line.
100%, and that is what came out, and that's a part in the song where everybody remembers that. You know what I mean? Like, everyone remembers the bridge lyrics and the vocals of that. And how weird is that? How weird is that that all went down, and he was like, I just don't have anything for the bridge. And Rick Rubin was like, dude, go pick up a book and put your finger down on the first line you see, and that's the line. And sometimes that sticks with me, where it's like, isn't it interesting? Like how easy would it be to just go to some line that just didn't work at all? Or it was like, try another one. You know what I mean?
Randomizer.
And it just worked, man. So isn't that funny?
That's great.
Going to that bridge, man. You know?
Yeah, that's a great way. It almost like demystifies the process, because some people get so hung up on like, oh no, it has to be this perfect message that correlates from this. Yeah. Even Olivia talking a little bit, I'm just like, oh no, it has to be the great lyrics, but like just to pop it up to a random page.
To me, I think that's the beauty of writing, man. Yeah. You know, some of my favorite songs that I've ever composed, they honestly just came to me. You know, and it was like moments of like this song just like spewed out of me. I don't know how, but it just did. You know, and it's like I've also went through like a lot of like different songwriting processes where it's like I've remade this song 5 times. You know, and it's like, you know, sometimes it's like I remade this song 5 times and now it turned out to be what I wanted it to be. But I can also remake the song 5 times and I'm like, I still don't like it. You know, so it's like you never know. So it's like that's like the beauty of writing. You know,
you write lyrics, my guy.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
yeah.
snap.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So I write. So on some songs, I will write full lyrics, and then I'll. Now, me and my brother's voice when we sing sounds very similar because we're brothers, right? And also, you know, the way that my brother sings for American Grimm is it's not like it's like he's got his own voice, right? So it's like I would hear. You know, if I were to like take myself out and like my family out of the process, I would be like, what is this guy's voice gonna sound good with, right? And it's like, okay, no, he doesn't sound like he should be playing for Nickelback. You know, he doesn't have this like really like theatrical voice. So I'm like, what's gonna sound good, right? So I would write the music of what I think his voice is gonna sound right with, right? And when you have a different voice, like for instance, like a band like Smashing Pumpkins, right? Like if you put like the Billy Corgan Smashing Pumpkins voice with like a Breaking Benjamin song, be like, I just don't know if this is matching up, man. You know what I mean? Like this is like, you know, and I felt like, you know, as a songwriter, that it was like my job to figure out what I think is probably the most important thing of like being in a band, if you're songwriting, and especially if you have anything to do with vocal writing or melodies and things like that, that it's got to match what you're going for, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's like a fine line, because like sometimes if you go too far away from like what that singer's supposed to sound like,
Yeah.
it just becomes humorous.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the like AI, like Frank Sinatra
Yeah.
singing like twerk
Yeah,
music and
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
Do we pull that up? That is hilarious. It's like it's like the funniest stuff ever. But like yeah, speaking of that, have you guys ever in the recent months, years, oh boy, once getting to like a stuck spot with lyrics, turn to your girl,
now.
Chat GPT?
No, I have not, but I am currently stuck because I'm like too happy
Hey.
and I can't write anything.
That happens.
Thanks a lot.
Listen, honestly, that's a real thing. Yeah,
That is a real thing.
I mean, when you're trying to write, and you feel like I feel like even writing lyrics, really lyrics more than melodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can get stuck, man. It's like if you feel like that you don't have anything, like something eating you up and super passionate, sometimes it just doesn't spew out.
Yeah.
Right. And on the American Grimm album, the 1947 album that just came out, I was so it was just a time for me. I just felt very. A lot of things felt kind of negative for me. Like a lot of things where I was just not happy about a lot of that. A lot of that record just spewed out of me. It was just like that.
Ultra Black is a super dark album.
Then Ultra Black is a super dark album too, and it
that album makes me uncomfortable. It's so sad, and like if you know what happened, it's like
yeah, and it's one of those things where I mean, look, would everybody rather it spew out of them? 100%. Does it always spew out of you? No, but when it does, it's one of those weird things where it's like a moment of like, well, here it is, and I don't know where it came from, but it's here now.
Right. Sometimes you're just a conduit, letting it come through.
So you just let it come through you, and I hate to say you have to go through all this negative to create, this like this album that just spews out of you. Like I'd honestly rather it not be that way. You know what I mean? But sometimes that's just the way it works, man. You know what I mean? It's like it just comes out of you when you're going through a lot, and it's almost like your like internal like mind just kind of comes out, man. And
sometimes you go through too much, though. I mean, like for me, when I went through like some probably the darkest times of my life, I couldn't write. I mean, I was so sad. I didn't know how I felt. I didn't understand like what I was upset about. I didn't understand how to put that into words. So I feel like sometimes it can go too far. But then like Harridan is like not even about me. And that just kind of came out of me. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's just, I guess, mentally, like how you're feeling. I mean, if you're trying to write a sad song and you're super, super happy, it's not going to work. If you're too sad, you're not going to be able to write anything,
I think everybody has their own little process of writing,
This is true, yeah.
And for me personally, like when I would have stuff that I knew that was inside me that I had to get off my chest, I knew it was time to go to the studio. You know what I mean? Like I knew it was time for either me to go into my own personal studio. And what's so weird is like, even though in moments for me personally, when I would feel like just so like over a lot of shit, I would be like, the best thing for me to do right now is go into the studio because I know it's going to come out of me. It's like I know whatever is going down is going to come out of me, and a lot of times it would. I mean, not every time, but like most, like I'd say about like 85% of the time, it would come out of me, and I feel like to capture that is like important, and on some of the 1947 tracks, like one thing that as like doing like for a songwriter, one thing that I think is important is to feel this, like whether 10 million people listen to this or whether I just listen to this is me, and there's something genuine about that, of like, this is like what has come out of this. And I also think that there's like a benefit of having what's truly in you, if that comes out, whether 10 million people listen to it or whether you and your friends just listen to it, it's like there's something really genuine that comes out of that is like, that was in your soul, man, and now it's out. So it doesn't even matter who, you know what I mean? It's
That's
like
great. It sounds like a Rick Rubinism, like very much just release yourself from the outcome of it.
I'm a big believer in that. You know what I mean? And you know, I have a couple tracks on the last album that came out that I would never take back in a million years. You know, and one thing my brother always told me was, you know, on the last album, there was one point where I said, "Dude, I don't want to release this." Because it felt a little too personal.
On Ultra Black or 1947?
1947 album. I said, man.
She's gathering a chill. She's like, oh, it's not this one. It's not this one. Maybe it's this one.
No, yeah, right.
And some of this just felt, when I was listening to it back, almost felt a little bit too personal, man.
Oh, wow.
You know, it felt like a little bit too much like, I just don't know if I want this out there. And my brother was like, that's the beauty of it, man. You know, and he was like, release this and kind of explain to me where it was like, you know, these are the songs that will last a long time, and if they don't, you still left. You know what I mean? You know, so
yeah, exactly.
Excuse me, I left I left that behind, being like, oh, I don't know if I should release this, because you know what? It's like you want to release what's really in your heart, man, what you really feel, and sometimes those make the best tracks.
Yeah, it's cool to release those tracks that are really close to you, because, you know, like you mentioned, and I know a songwriter who sometimes will just really separate himself from the character of who's writing and like create a whole new character for like this person going through this different experience almost in this own universe.
Right. Yeah. It's like writing a story.
Exactly. Yeah. And certain people also, everyone has a different process, right? But some people with so many distractions at home, kids, whatever, they almost only write in the car. Like they'll be driving, finally less distractions from the outside world, and an idea comes to them. Yeah. And they have to like pull over or do a voice memo and sing it and like gather that while they're out there without the, oh, Dad, we got to go here. Oh, we got to do this. So, they gotta write that.
So, Robbie, I have a question for you. So when you're writing, when do your ideas come to you? Do your ideas come to you when you're in your studio, or are you driving around like you were just saying? Like when do your ideas come to you when you start to feel like I got an idea about this?
Yeah, it's typically earworms that come like, you know, like driving or other like partially distracted type things. Like some people say the shower, it doesn't come to the shower for me. But like different things where you think about something else, and I have a terrible voice, but I'll pull out my phone and just hit start voice memo and like try to approximate the thing I'm hearing. Like one time I remember I was on the way to a rehearsal with a band that's like, you know, very, you know, detached from monetary outcomes. Like we're just like jamming, having fun, kind of creating. Yeah. And on the way there, I like heard the idea in my head, I like made a little voice note, and then like we all performed it and like wrote it that right then. I'm like, that's awesome. Because as you can see, when I'm in my studio, I get a little distracted by the bells and whistles. I'm like, oh yeah, let's move this cable over here. Let's do this over here. So I'm not as in it. But one thing I've done, I could recommend to you as well, is like, for example, if you're feeling like, you know, everything's fine, we have food, we have shelter, we want to change the mood a little bit, I dive deep into like changing the senses. Right. Like really dim lights, ominous type droney music, maybe watch some war footage, like something if you really need to like change the footage to like get all of this getting into a different mindset.
We're going back up to Boston soon, which I think is gonna definitely bring out some writing for me. In an unfortunate way. I mean, it's going to be a great trip, but I definitely have my history with Boston, and I think it's going to be
100%
rough.
And, you know, we're going up to Boston. I'm doing a show in
at Berkeley at the Red Room.
At the Red Room in Berkeley. Hey Seth, what about you, man? What the writing process? Like, do you have a certain writing process that you go by?
It's hard to say specifically. Yeah. It's I don't even know what my writing process is.
Dude, I know what you mean.
It's usually just like when I get a feeling, like when I have a message that I'm trying to convey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to not do this but I've only been able to write songs about women that I'm into, and I need
That's
to.
fine.
And it's fine. Like most songs are written about someone.
Most songs are written about.
It's written about what you're feeling at the time.
Exactly, but I don't want to.
Which I love watching. Adventures.
I don't always have inspiration. Sometimes it's dry out here in these streets.
Yeah.
And,
man, I feel you, man. But you know what's so funny?
You don't feel him with the dry out here in these streets.
No. I feel you.
It's pretty. I mean, it's gotta be right for you to be.
He's no.
No. Listen. I feel you on this. I can relate to having dry spots in writing, right? Because I've had moments where I'm like, so basically, I have a little bit of a different writing process, right? A lot of people will start with vocals. I never do. I always start with instrumentals, right? And I always start with like pretty much a finished instrumental.
Kind of do half and half.
Yeah. And sometimes I do half and half, right? Like my main thing that I'll do is I'll get the instrumental together. Typically what I'll do is once the hook instrumental is laid down, I'll start with the hook, right? Because in for me and really where like I come from is like, rock radio, it's like your hook's got to be fire, right? So if like your hook is on point, let's just get that verse on point now too, as far as vocal writing goes, right? So for me, but I'll always start with the instrumental, right? And sometimes that hook will come to me immediately, where it's like, there it is. And once that hook comes to me, I know I got a song. Once the hook comes to me, it's like the hook is there. I'll figure it out, and I'll make sure that the verse can at least stand next to that hook, right?
It's like the thesis that you have to write your paper around. Like,
but sometimes I'll go through an instrumental that I love, and I'm like, this is the instrumental that I want. And so basically, like, my writing process is no matter what, I go through 3 hooks. No matter what, even if number 1 is the money, I go through 3 hooks every time, right? And
you can do that.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I go through 3 hooks because I feel like no matter, and it's like, and I kind of cap myself at 3, right? Because it's like I can write 9 hooks, right? So it's like I'll go through 3, right? Even if number 1 is like that's it, definitely, because.
But what if?
Yeah, exactly. Like, but what if?
That's
right?
like amazing that you can do that, because like I get that like earworm again. It's like I write something and I know that I like it, and I cannot get it out of my head.
Well, the key that what I do, right, is so it's the 3 hook method, right? So I'll go through 3 hooks, and
3 hook
that's the way I look at it, right?
I can barely write 1 hook. I'm like,
not even the thing. It's the Brendan Healey thing.
That's how I look at it, right? So I go through 3 hooks, and basically what will happen, right? And here's how I look at the writing process. If the first hook is money, lay the first hook down, mute it. Right, because if you keep listening to that first hook,
you're just gonna believe in that only.
Not even not even so much that though, but then that first hook is stuck in your head, right? So
he's listening. What my problem is
now, all your other hooks are going off this first hook. So what you need to do, and not what you need to do, what I do, right?
Okay.
Is so here's what you got to do. All right, listen to me. Now listen.
He's like, you guys, I know how to write songs.
Step 1.
So step 1. Let's say if I lay down the hook that I think is the hook, right, and it comes out very natural, and it's just like boom, and all flowed perfectly, right? I will mute that hook immediately, go to second hook, and then let's say if we go to the third hook the next day. But normally that first hook will always will be the one that leads up, right?
I sense a pattern here that you don't even need to write.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's what you're getting at. Well, also,
hooks 2 and 3 might not.
Also, do you ever have that thing where I have this? When you're writing a hook, you already have like a lyric that is like coming through in that hook. Like when I wrote Harridan, that like there's like a how in there, and when I wrote it, I went how can but that how was always there, right? And do you write like that? Like I have songs where the lyrics
where you have
are stuck
gibberish, but then you're like, I know I want to say this word here,
but it's unconscious.
and like, yeah,
right? Okay. I always thought that was really weird that I did that, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't crazy.
Yeah, because I'm more often in the instrumental world, but I'll have that with like certain, like it needs to pitch bend up here this way. There are like certain parts of it that are like get stuck in the original like.
And it's like unconscious, like you don't even mean to do it. It just like happens.
You know what's weird? What's weird about the hook writing? So for me, here's what I've noticed. Now I've always had to go through 2 other people on my hooks, right? And what I've noticed is here's how it's always worked for me, right? Send the first hook. Right, and that's like the hook that came out. This has happened very like sporadically, almost like random. Right, I send the first hook, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I like that one." And I'm like, "All right, hang tight, meet that one." I go to the second one. Here's the second hook. There it is. You see what I'm saying? So, and it's all in and the other thing that I go by is it's all in the same session, right? Like the next day, I don't lay down that I don't start on it. It's all in that same moment. It's all in that same session, right? Because I've had a lot of hooks that went down where it's like I muted that first one, and one thing from I can always tell whether on a reaction of somebody, you know, just for me personally, not like I can tell through like anybody else, but just through my crew, you know, like through my guys, I can always tell whether it's like that's the one or not, right? So that's why I always go through 3 hooks. So I would mute that. So on a lot of tracks, here's your first hook, and they'd be like, "Oh, I like this one a lot. I like that hook a lot." I'd be like, "Hang tight," and then I'd mute that first hook, play the second hook, and that second hook or third hook would be it, you know. So for me, it was like I would always do it in that same session because I feel like it would capture the same vibe as opposed to me coming back to it like a week later, you know, and being like, "Well, now," yeah, because like I really do believe in like the vibe of like when you're like in the studio and you're doing it, and it's like my vibe 2 weeks later, like whether it's true or not, it is different. You know what I mean? Like it is different. Like I'm in a different mindset.
It matters what you ate, how you slept.
Exactly.
This is true.
How
Any
the lights are
personal
like.
life things.
Exactly.
Like,
So it's like I believe in all that just as much as I believe in like the Rick Rubin telling, you know, I think his name's Sergey. I might be, but to just to go to the book,
Probably
and just,
Sergey.
You know, it's
I
like
don't even know.
it could have been 2 weeks later, and he could have said go to the book, and he might have picked a different book. You know what I mean?
True.
He-
This
he-
is true.
He might have went to a different book and went to a line, and he might have said for 10 minutes, keep going down, and that big bridge might have not happened.
Yeah.
So it's like in a weird way, it's like this like fate shit, and songwriting's magical, bro. You know what I mean?
Nice.
It's like,
Dude, that's cool to hear you're so into songwriting and everything because you could never tell. I mean, check out this man's Instagram page, Killer
Yes.
Drumming
Nice, man.
Daily, over like 40,000 followers on Instagram.
At Brendan Healey Drums.
Brendan Healey drums, baby.
Right.
I know it requires more tech and stuff, but like I would love to see some like songwriting stuff happening. Have you ever thought about doing any songwriter-y stuff? I know it's annoying. You got to do a screen capture. You got to do this. You got to
Truthfully,
do that.
no, because honestly, I the way that I do things is really odd. Like just like the way that I songwrite is like not as typical, and truthfully, it's not as like it's not as mainstream,
Hold
right? Like a lot of
Keep talking.
a lot of songwriters and producers out there, and with like Logic and Pro Tools and Fruity Loops, they really like know how to explain everything really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes you just want to go in and do the thing.
And for me, I really love the songwriting aspect of it. Like for me, it's like I'm not an engineer, right? Like if I couldn't bring you into the studio with me and be like, hey, you know, you got to raise this to this, you got to do this, got to do this. So I think that honestly, people would probably get a little frustrated because it's very like just like my style of doing it. And I think it might work for some people, but probably not everybody. You know, so it's like for me, it's like I never did any like songwriting tutorials because I feel like the way that I do things is so unorthodox. You know what I mean? And it's like the way. There we go. There we go.
This man's a savage.
I think in some of these, there's a giant poster of me on the wall.
Yes!
that our boss put in there.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
But yeah, but
Somewhere.
going back to going back to some of the songwriting stuff, it's like one of those things where I'm not sure. I would hope that it could inspire some people, that have a different songwriting style. Like, because I totally have a different songwriting style, and just the way I do it, everything is different. But I think some people online would probably be like, bro, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they're not interested.
Yo, you're doing like, like I always looked at it as like, dude, I will put this together and I'm a songwriter. But I always go to my main engineer and my producer, Morello. And he's always going, dude, what are you doing?
He goes, what? What, dude, what?
But to me, but to be honest, the main thing for me is this. Like, okay, for, let's not even talk about levels. Let's not talk about mixing or anything like this. Is the song there? Like, is your song there? Yeah. If the song is there, I mean, let's mix it up, okay? But like, to me, it's let's put the song together. Let's put the melodies together. And if everything falls in line, then the mixing part of this is the job of somebody who loves engineering and stuff. And for me, it's not something I ever loved. It's like like as far as my personal studio, I have a really great producer can come into my studio and be like, dude, you have everything to make this sound amazing. And to me, I always felt like my passion was more into like the songwriting and making the song is there. And then I want to go in the studio and just like sit back and be like, raise that, raise this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just like want to like put the song together. And truthfully, like in the form of a producer, that's what like an engineer and producer does, man.
Well,
like,
a producer is the person that sits there and tells you kind of what to do. An engineer is the
so
person who
I
does
like
it.
more of the producing aspect more than the engineering aspect.
But you help produce my songs, really.
Yeah. And producing wise, like that's like, I feel like that's like more of like my forte of like sitting in the room with a great engineer who's like knows every button to hit. Right. And I always feel like the producer is more somebody that has like the ear of exactly where the song should go.
They talk to the artist, really.
Yeah.
And the story needs to be told.
I also think
which is something I never wanted to be involved in.
I also think that a lot of engineers have that great ear too, where they can sit and they know. But when it comes to all the levels and stuff, I do think so unorthodox when it comes to the studio stuff that it like trips out so many producers and shit where they're like, what's going? They're like, it's a great song. What the f is going on in this music? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
Well, from even like a drummer's perspective, like when you go into the studio with certain songs, how dialed in is the writing for like certain fills and everything? Like, do you improvise at all, like with the fills in between, or you're like, no, this is gonna be?
Truthfully, in a lot of my so like if you go to Brendan and Healey drums, a lot of my drumming is more chaotic, right? Like I'm like going all over the place. That's my style of drumming. But if you hear the writing, the drumming is much more laid back,
like significantly.
Because my goal in it is not so much as a piece of me as a drummer to be like, look how crazy my drum fill is. It's more of just serving the music.
Even though he has some pretty awesome drum fills in there but it's like it'd be like, okay, like how I think of it, at least when I hear him. I mean, I'm watching him write the next album right now, right? So I can see it happening. But for me, it's like would it make more sense to do a crazy vocal run, super high note, Inherited, or would it make more sense to do something that fits the song? It's like that. Like I think that's really important as a musician too, to know what fits and to have kind of this tasteful approach to things. It's like,
because
if it fits, if it makes sense for what you're writing,
that's what it is. And I feel like when it comes to writing music, like this isn't the Brendan Healey drums Instagram, man. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not like this isn't like me going off chopping out, man. This is like more of like I'm serving the music for a song and I'm serving the band. So I'm not like, look how crazy this fill is. It's more about like, does the guitar chop in with this fill correctly? So that's kind of what I look for when doing these songs, where it's like that sometimes people will hit me up and be like, dude, I watch all your Instagrams, watch all your TikToks. I would love to hear some more crazier drums. and you would think like, man, I had zero writing in that, right? Because I would be making all these crazy drum
Are they
parts.
talking about American Grim stuff?
Yeah, you know, yeah.
That's wild to me though, because like I feel like the fills are pretty crazy for what American Grim is.
This isn't like, you know, but as
It's not Tool.
but as opposed to like my Instagram, you know what I mean? It's like I'm keeping it a little bit more modest, you know.
You could pull a Nate Smith.
But it makes sense.
Put out an all
though.
drum album.
I feel like that's but I feel like that's a musician thing. I think a lot of which sounds pretentious when I say it out loud, but like the average person, right? Not like there's musicians' music and there's music for the
Right.
And that's
public.
exactly what it is. So when it comes to musicians' music, it's like, you know, and I've always thought about this. I always love this because I love drummers like Dave Weckl and these great studio drummers. So I'm always like, man, when I get a little bit of time, I'm going to create a drum album. You know, like this like fusion wild drum album that's like, you know, with all these phenomenal players like Robbie and Seth and Liv, right?
Liv.
I said Liv.
You said Anna Liv.
And a Liv.
Let's get a live on the mic.
God, I
Get
had
a Liv.
teacher that
Get a
called-
liver too.
So,
I had a teacher that called me Olive. Can we get back to that after this?
but
It's
but
hilarious.
when
calling
it comes to the songwriting and you know, we had like Nightmare and a couple of our songs on the Octane radio. When it comes to like the radio writing, if I'm gonna be doing like a good portion of the songwriting, I gotta keep it tasteful. I can't just be like
Yeah.
going
It was what? It was Nightmare and it was Gods and Kings,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
those are the two songs that are, first of all, awesome songs, but like, it sounds nothing like his Instagram.
Right.
And
No,
like, and I'm an outside perspective really than you talking about your own playing. You
Yeah,
know?
like thinking about keep it tasteful. I sometimes get called out from certain band members that think of soloing as like, yeah, you just got to play 30-second notes. You got to do the runs. You got to
Right.
do this and that.
No,
Like
no.
I'll get called out, and like they'll like because I try to tell the story with some of my solos.
Right.
Like I'll try to go through and like introduce a little bit and like kind of grow this thing. Ideally, grow up building up to something, and then maybe go back to a final chorus type of thing.
Right.
But some people they'll call me out. They'll be like, oh yeah, you got to just you're not gonna do eighth notes in a solo unless you're Robbie.
right,
They try to call me out for like I try to start somewhere slow and like think almost more like a vocalist at least at the start. Maybe
Tasteful.
I'll wiggle my fingers fast towards the end, but like not right at the start always.
But you have to be tasteful. I mean, you think about a guitar solo. It's
One
like,
more time. Last time.
oh boy. Is it, I mean, like you think about like a solo, like a guitar solo, is it sweeping the whole time or is it like, you know, some variation? I mean, it gets boring when it's the same thing over and over and over again, you know? It's not exciting then. And I think a lot of musicians are the culprits in that. They don't realize that you can be tasteful and still be talented, right? And it's the public that thinks like, wow, that great solo, it sounded really good. Like they just kind of like think like, oh, sounds good is good, right? Musicians are like, it wasn't hard, so it's not good, which is really inaccurate in a lot of ways. I mean, like you can take somebody singing something as simple as like "Sunshine on My Shoulders" by John Denver, and it depends on how good of a singer they are if it sounds good or not.
Sometimes the simplest things are the hardest.
Exactly, the bass players. How can you
Here's
play that Michael Jackson Billie Jean riff over and over and over again? That is probably one of the hardest riffs I've ever had to play. Doing that for 3.5 minutes is crazy.
Yeah, it's really hard
I've
to
had to do that. It's a
Oh
fucking
my
nightmare.
Yeah, it's fair because I have to often do that with like playing left-hand bass too. So like left hand is the bass and right hand is the keys.
Right.
I always screw it up. Right. I'm
It's
trying.
so hard. It's so hard, and there's 80 different
Same.
ways you can play that song. And I remember playing it when I was a kid, and like I was like on stage, and like if there's somebody has a video of it, but I'm like this. I'm like. And I'm like so focused because it hurts. First of all, it's so painful to play that song, and not to mention it's a track when Michael Jackson played it live. It's not even a real bass player; it's a keyboard. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, the flat wound bass, those feel pretty nice. So can you hand that over? That thing feels so good.
Wait, like, can you hand that over? Like, what is what?
how to play this song.
No, you don't have to play it all.
It.
It's just pressing down with your left hand, you'll get the idea of like how smooth it is compared to like some certain like bright strings or whatever, and like slides. Do a few slides.
Oh, it does feel good.
Right.
This feels really good.
So smooth. So smooth.
Really good.
It's a little darker though.
That bass feels great. I love dark basses because I'm a metalhead.
Thanks so much for watching. You made it so far into the video, you may as well subscribe for more musical things.